I'm begging us to dialogue with the thief.
For Nurdin Haji to come and account for the previous, operations.
My name is Bashir Mohammed. I am a social worker, a business person, and also a
From there, then we will understand whether it was a gun that was pointed at him for this to happen, or it is something which
Hello everyone, brothers and sisters. I hope you're having a good time in these bad times, and you're also observing the political trends that are happening in this country. My name is Bashir Mohammed. I am an entrepreneur. I belong to the youth category, those slightly above the Gen Z, but I have brothers, and most of my friends belong to the Generation Z, and we are observing the solidarity that is going on, spearheaded by the Gen Zs and all the demonstration. Of course, we've been fighting for the same rights for many years, but we appreciate that you have come out with a different flavor of energy. I want to take this opportunity to ask all of you to pray for a prosperous country in this time that it is anticipated that we might enter into a more difficult situation if we are not careful. And of course, it is difficult for us to be careful because it is not a force that we can manage. It is a conglomerate effort from Gen Z, millennials, and different other people, and we are now seeing gangsters and political leaders playing a role in shaping the agenda of revolution. Earlier, I've been sharing a number of videos that are categorically putting some balance into what the Gen Zs are doing, asking them to be careful in the street, that we should embrace dialogue and all that. But I also want to emphasize that the dialogue I am talking about here is not equal to what we have been seeing before. We need to do dialogue among ourselves first. And the reason why we need to do that we need to talk to each other, is not to understand the issues, because I know that our issues are clear, but to understand the diversity and the strategies that we might apply in our commitment to put our government, into accountability. And one of the strategy I would like to advise my fellow youths is one, and I would like to divide this into three. Step number one is we need to do a background study or a deeper research of what exactly is going on in the country and how can we address those issues as young people. So we need to study what is going on. We need to study what the president is doing, to study the impact of what we have already achieved, or maybe the actions we took earlier, and try to mitigate the steps we are taking by introducing measures that are not necessarily peaceful. They might not be peaceful, but measures that are impactful with the required result. So that means it is time to organize ourselves into societies and consortium of wise people. Whereas we cannot control who should go to the street or not, we need to mobilize ourselves differently. We might need a group of young people who are good in data collection and analysis to analyze the situation in our country, so that we can prepare for some scenarios and find diverse way of communicating to the government. If we only stick to one approach, which is protest, then there is a possibility we might lose it, because the government and some political leaders, they have countered the protest approach, and it is no longer having impact in trying to destroy what we want to destroy from the government, or in creating the minimum changes that we need. We have already seen that the shutting down of cabinet was an opportunity for the opposition, and I said it earlier that in as much as we are in the street, if we are not careful, then our fruits will benefit other people. I said it in an earlier video. Our fruits is going to benefit the opposition, and we saw how the opportunists, they have acted smarter than most of us. Yes, we occupied the parliament, but what did we do? We gave them a holiday. Most of the MPs, we could not reach them. They had a retreat. They had a very good excuse now to play around, went around maybe visiting some businesses, retreating and see how they can prepare coming back. So they had very good time because they already have our money. Some went to holidays, trying to convince the president that they are trying to recover from the trauma of kusalimiwa. So they expended their time better. The cabinet was destroyed, and immediately we saw the honorable former prime minister coming into the table. And when we were in the street in the first time, we did not hear them speaking until when action was taken by the president, and this action presented to their table an opportunity for Mkatenusu, which was rejected earlier. Now the president had no option but to listen to the opposition, claiming that the opposition also has a bigger population of Gen Zs and other young people that and millennials and some elders that have the opportunity to outmatch our numbers, or the number of the people who want changes. And we saw that happening, and the scramble and petition started within the Azimio, where we saw Wiper Party being shaken, and there's confusion within the parties. All this is because it is time for them to share the same positions that we assisted them destroying. So the result, if we analyze, and this is very important, we need some time. The reason why I was saying earlier, we should not just go to the street blindly. Every time we go to the street, we should come back and have a retreat. We need to analyze the impact of what we did and the result. We had a police officer, the head of police, being swapped to another one. What did the other person did? He applied the same law, the system. We had a number of people, and the cabinet was removed, and 50% were returned, and then the other 50% was shared in accordance to the interests of the opposition. So were we fighting for Raila? Were we on the street for the opposition? Or we had our own issues? What do you learn from that? That sometimes you can come up with a good idea, but if you're not careful, if you're not wise enough, the fruit of that idea will be hijacked by people who are more prepared than you. And that is why we need to have multiple section of us. We should not go into one direction like fools. We cannot all of us go to the street. We need to organize ourselves differently. And we need to have people that among ourselves that are prepared for dialogue. You saw how the president skipped the dialogue part. When we insisted we are going back to the street, he claimed that we are not listening to him and therefore enough is enough. That was an escapism. He was, because it is a very wise way of removing your equation, because you claim that you are faceless, formless. Any step you take, you need to know that even if there is somebody advising you on the agenda on how to program yourself, that person could be the enemy. Because why are people rejecting you to have a form, face, and to do dialogue? Because they know once you enter into dialogue with the president, your issues will be conditionally achieved and you will be listened to, because you started this war or fight. Therefore, you being in the negotiating table, you will be the subject. But once we removed ourselves from the equation, the opposition took the opportunity, and they are very clever. They always know when to fight and when to talk. But for us, we only know how to fight. We don't have time for talks, and that is the weakness we have. And we think talking is wasting time, when even the terrorists, even the people who are in the war, they always have time for ceasefire and they talk. Why do you talk? When you talk, you are setting minimum conditions for next engagement, and that is where you lock. What we did wrong is that we went to the street with our issues, but we were too much emotional, and we did not master the subjects, what exactly we need as people in terms of professionally negotiating that. So it was all about the people, when we were supposed to divide ourselves into different sectors as Gen Zs or young people. So what we are seeing here now is rebellion or a rebellious act, where the government is proving to you that I can partner with another group of bargaining power. If you think that you have numbers, the opposition has number. He is my enemy, but now I can partner with him, and that is not a good result. So what do we do from now? One, we need to organize ourselves. Now look, I want to show you something. The president is now not preparing to counter you on the issue of going to the street. The president is now preparing for 2027. He has already scanned. He knows it's a threat. The deputy president is a threat. He looks around and say, I cannot have three level of threats. I cannot be alone. So if the Gen Z, who people are saying they have numbers, 2027, they are preparing to remove me. If they are saying I should go now, that means 2027 they will be more organized. So if they are my enemies, if the opposition is my enemy, the Gen Zs are my enemies, the church is no longer listening to me, because I brought Benny Hinn the other time and I showed them that the international churches are more organized than you. And I also fought with Margaret Wanjiru and destroyed the reputation of Pastor Nganga. So I'm having people who believe in God, the people of God, the men in color, they no longer trust me as they used to be. So that is question mark. Where are we heading to? And the opposition is waiting for me to fall down so that they can bring their master. So I'm trying to bargain them by showing them there's an AU, because Sifuna and Babu Owino cannot match the threat of Raila. So what do we do now? The only way I can control the impact of this fire is to bring the Baba himself into the table, and even if it means breaking the Kenya Kwanza. I mean, is it the Kenya Kwanza? Yes, I think the Kenya Kwanza, or the Azimio. If it means breaking Azimio for me to have Baba and some few individuals, then it's better. Then scanning Mombasa, what can I do? Let me destroy Kwale to get Mombasa. I should bring Joho into the table, because Joho can represent Raila. This is a deputy leader. If I want to give Raila something indirectly, then I can give to Joho. Of course, what do you call this guy? Kalonzo is not in a hurry. He has his people who are pressuring him, so we can sacrifice him. So you see, this strategy is to block you from achieving what you want in 2027. Of course, he knows he can survive. Ruto must go now. So we need to know that we have contributed to these mistakes, and we still have time to correct and maybe to do it better. Now the question is, there are two things we were supposed to achieve. It's either Ruto remains in power but acts to our demand, or he is removed right now, or we let him continue doing his mistakes with an assurance that he will never come back on 2027. Now think about this. The fight and the awakening that you are doing is giving an enabling environment to the opposition to feed their spaces for a 50-50 cabinet, or maybe an equal opportunity working together with coalition. That's basically half government, because if you put the executive committee where we have the opposition and the ruling, then there's 50-50. Of course, the parliament has its own percentage, so this is 50-50 government. So your fruits, they were waiting for you to prepare the meal. Now the opposition is feeding, and they might threaten you in the future that if you think you are more Gen Z, we also have ours. And we have seen some few days ago the men in motorbike and all that. This was purely from those people who politically wants to benefit from what Ruto is presenting. So it also means that we use excess force without looking at the temperature. We scared the president too much, to an extent that he was desperate enough to take decisions that are not good even for him. And that's the danger of sometimes breaking limits. We empowered him so much to even take decisions. For the fear of going, he took decisions that are more dangerous for him and ourselves. So sometimes it's important to apply pressure where it is urgently required. So tulipitiliza, and we are still doing the same mistakes by claiming we will be going to the street all the time. It helps sometimes, but you need to check when you are doing something. You need to check the result. You're not just doing it. You need to check if it is working, and have some retreat, have some professionals among yourself that can analyze what you are doing. So I believe we need now to focus on 2027. We have lost this battle, I can tell you. We have lost in a very technical way that you might not know, you might not see it right now. And we started losing when we could not manage, or we could not as a team identify when the goons and the gangsters, the criminal-minded Gen Zs, people among ourselves mixed with us. We were supposed to declare that time, that was the right time to disown them and even stop going to the streets until it is clear that we are not part of the criminal. The moment we started mixing with people who destroyed other people's property, the flavor changed. It's like you are eating a very delicious meal, and in the middle of that food unapatana na mguu ya cockroach. What happens? You automatically lose the appetite. So those are the mistakes we did, and it also shows that we were more emotional than intellectual. So we did not plan, we did not focus on the strategy so much. We were focusing on the emotional part of it, the painful part of it. And that I think we will be able to learn in the future. This struggle cannot be compared by Mau Mau and what happened. During the Mau Mau time, they were more organized, because whereas most of them were youths, we also had elders. And what they were doing, they were planning. They made sure they even have people representing them outside the country. They are fighting here, but they have intellectual people in the universities representing them in the US and all those areas. Why? Because they wanted impact from all the sides. They had people specifically bringing them food, money, some other people for spiritual enhancement and all that. So, and when time for political leadership came, they did not rush there. They handed over to those who are the most educated among themselves. And that's where you saw Kenyatta was not a part of the Mau Mau, but he was entrusted leadership because he could do it better. So such organization is what we are missing. We now need the Gen Zs and the youth to reorganize themselves or ourselves into sectors. Those who are in schools, education sector, those who are in the civil society sector, those who are in the political sector, and those who are at home or in the street. We need to reorganize ourselves and adopt one agenda focusing on 2027, not now. Right now, what we can do is just to articulate ourselves and push for some accountability of what the government did that was wrong, and also fight corruption. But just like the president and the opposition are setting for 2027, we need to organize that. We need to make sure that we have mobilized as much young people as possible from the 47 counties. And from here, we will discuss together on what do we do with the mobilization of the youths. Millions of youths have to come together digitally, physically, and have a conversation on what we need for our country. And there are other ways that we can do to achieve sustainable governance without even going to the street. And even if we go to the street, we still have other people doing the right thing. So we must be ready for dialogue, a dialogue that is organized in accordance to our framework. We must be ready to organize ourselves from the 47 counties, mobilize as much as we can so that we can now fight for accountability and fight against corruption from the county to the city. From there, I think we'll be able to discuss other specific strategies on how we can achieve whatever we want peacefully without destroying anyone's property. Thank you.
Welcome to the Grand Iron, the Mastermind Club, G12.